Look at the weather.
It's beautiful here.
Non-stop rain.
Oh, man, it is a blazer out there.
It's cold and it's shivery.
It is cold.
Really coming down here.
I really enjoy your weather reports.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network, we're talking weather in a whole new way. From historical events to what's coming up, plus weather news, science, safety, fun facts, and more.
I like where this is going.
This is Weather Weekly. Weather Weekly with Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Marcus Bailey.
Episode number 49. Got a special one for you as we are going to drop this on a Tuesday. I am meteorologist Marcus Bailey with Wish TV in Indianapolis. And Indiana, get ready. Our first significant snow and ice event of this winter season. It's been a long time coming. We're long overdue. We're going to spend the whole podcast talking about what you can expect here for this early February snow and ice maker. That's coming up next here on Weather Weekly.
Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what kind of romance you're into, you don't have to choose just one. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, or maybe a steamy billionaire. You could find a book boyfriend in the city and another one tearing it up on the hockey field. And if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Discover modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, plus Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander. And of course, all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
It is episode 49 of Weather Weekly. We got a special one here. We're going to drop this a day early, and the big reason why is we have kind of our big first winter system of this season. Better late than never, I suppose. But a lot to talk about because this is a multi-day and multi-wave event. So I bring in my friend, my colleague, meteorologist Steven Diana. We're going to kind of break this down for you. Hey, Steven.
Hey, Marcus. How's it going, man? Thank you for having me back on the podcast. Appreciate it as always. This one, this system. It's going to be a doozy for some.
Well, it is. And the thing is, it's going to be one of those deals. It's all depending on your location, and what day, because I've been saying a lot in the newsroom today, right? That, we may go here in Indianapolis where our station is located. We may go a good chunk of Wednesday, and we could have a lot of people looking around saying, where's the snow you're talking about? Because we may not see it for a while here in Indy. It's probably going to be more Thursday that we have to worry about kind of the thump of snow here. But if you live in northern Indiana, it could be both days for you where it kind of piles up. So just kind of it's a unique system because it kind of stretches over a long span. But I mean, if you really look at it, it's kind of almost like we're getting two separate systems, even though they're all kind of interconnected, I guess.
Yeah, it's quite a large system indeed. I mean, I'll tell you what, Marcus, like the last couple of days, look at the models, I'm like thinking, why am I seeing like 2 feet of snow with the accumulation, like the prediction and whatnot? It's insane with how this has come together. And I can see why, of course, because when I'm seeing like these really larger totals, it's because of the fact that, simply put, the duration of the event, like you were saying, Marcus, with this being potentially 2 ways especially, and how long the snow is going to last and how heavy the snow is going to be, I'm not totally shocked to see some of these totals come out in these winter storm warnings, especially up north. And, of course, we started seeing these warnings issued yesterday. But, the impacts from the system are going to, regardless, be highly, highly significant.
Right. And look, that's been kind of the driving point. And the podcast well, and I think a lot of times I always try to drive home the point. We haven't had to talk about it much this year just because of the lack of winter weather. But, I've really, especially as my career has evolved, I try to be more focused on impacts rather than accumulation. And I know accumulation is going to be the gold standard And it's also how we as meteorologists are going to be graded, right? That's how people are going to look back on how this forecast was. People may listen to this podcast a week from now. How are they going to look at it? They're going to be like, man, those guys nailed it, or whoa, those guys were way off. That remains to be seen. But I hope to think that maybe the accumulations may be off, but the driving point that I've been trying to make, and we have been trying to make as a team, is the impacts. Wednesday, and we'll kind of walk through the details in a second, but Wednesday, even though we may not get the significant snowfall in Indy like they're going to get in the northern third of the state on Wednesday, I think you still could have, travel impacts, which is why we've been saying Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night, watch out for some icy travel conditions. And then Thursday, I try to break it down and say Wednesday PM, Thursday AM, probably Thursday PM are all going to be kind of difficult travel conditions here. So that again, that's just kind of reiterating your point of how important I think, trying to drive the message home. We'll try to solidify those snowfall amounts. But the important factor is, I guess the question that I would ask you, Stephen, do you really know the difference between 8 inches of snow and 10 inches of snow when you're driving, or are you trying to do anything else,
Honestly, no, because, at the end of the day, when you get a significant amount of precip in the form of either snow or even ice, or you can get both, at that point, you're going to have a very difficult time trying to maneuver around that. And it's just going to cause all kinds of problems. You're talking daily life being impacted heavily, especially when you're looking at the WSSI overall component impact overall, which is a tool that we recently have been able to actually start using. It's called the Winter Storm Severity Index, and there's like 4 categories. You have minor, moderate, major, and extreme impacts. And through Thursday and Friday, for especially northern third of Indiana, we're talking extreme impacts. Why? Because of the boatloads of snow that are coming, but also too, and I remember you saying that, Marcus, about impacts from when we got the snowstorm last year in mid-February. Regardless, this is going to be some really rough stuff. You want to be prepared regardless, because, of course, if it does indeed get nasty and power outages are possible as well, you want to have extra food, water, backup power, keep your friends and family updated, and travel will definitely be strongly discouraged up here,
right,
of course, over the next couple of days.
All right.
So like these,
go ahead. No, go ahead and finish your thought.
Yeah, no, you're good. To reiterate your point again, the travel impact should always, no matter the totals, predicted totals, should always be emphasized and hammered home.
Right. So, before we get too deep into the discussion here, I want to kind of at least break this down and how this plays out. And so I'll kind of take the reins, but feel free to jump in here, Stephen, with any thoughts, since we're recording this here at 9:00 in the morning on Tuesday. So that is the day before really everything kind of gets going here. And we kind of just work through daybreak and my forecast here. So the thinking is, the storm itself doesn't really arrive until Thursday night. And it's interesting because you're probably looking at, initial start of rain. And even in northwestern Indiana, starting as rain, as this cold front moves through, and it probably starts around midnight up in northwestern Indiana, kind of fills in very slowly as we progress through the overnight. And then what ends up happening is this cold front will flatten out. And again, there's no scientific reason for this, but the way it's appearing right now is that the cold front basically drapes itself over I-70, which always seems to be kind of the battleground line, if you will, in these winter systems here in the state for whatever reason. Again, there's no scientific reason for it. But a lot of our Wednesday will be kind of splitting the state in half, it appears, north of that cold front. So north of I-70, you've got better chances for snow. Certainly, the farther north you go, the more consistency with the snow. And it could be potentially heavy at times. If you're south of I-70, you're probably going to be locked in with rain for a good portion of your Wednesday. Now, in between, there will be a little bit of back and forth. And this is where the big question mark lies for the Indy Metro, because that puts us squarely in the middle where we can do a lot of bouncing back and forth depending on the temperature. It will likely start as rain for us, but how quickly do we make that transition from rain to freezing rain or sleet? Or if we get cold enough in a hurry, does it quickly change over to snow, which would significantly up our snow totals from what we're going to give you here in a little bit. But so that's going to be kind of the question that we have to iron out here as we get a little bit closer. It makes it the forecast difficulty extremely high here. Once we get later into your Wednesday, we feel like the colder air is going to start pushing south gradually. And so around the metro area, we eventually will start to transition whatever we're in, whether it be rain or that wintry mix. We will fully transition over to all snow at some point, it appears, probably Wednesday night. And then that will continue into Thursday. And I think you're going to have some pretty heavy rates of snow in that kind of time frame there. And then all day Thursday for most of the state. The exception may be southern Indiana. But most of the state on Thursday should be locked in with cold enough temperatures that it should be an all snow event. And again, you're going to get these two plumes of moisture here, both Wednesday, and then you get maybe a little bit of a lull because you lose the connection from the Gulf and that moisture supply by, let's say, Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. And then you pick it back up with the second wave, if you will, that we've been talking about Wednesday night, but that's going to mesh with that Arctic air that's going to come in and fill in across the state and change it all over to snow. So with that said, our preliminary forecast for snow, and you got to kind of put a caveat in it here, is I'm pulling the map up here. I'm going to go from north to south. Okay. So basically from a near Lafayette to Kokomo to Huntington line, north all the way to the state line, I said 12 to 15 inches plus, because I do think there are going to be some isolated heavier numbers than that. I certainly think maybe 18 or 19 is probably within reach. Then you're going to have kind of below that, basically from just north of Terre Haute to a Carmel to Muncie to Portland line. I've got 8 to 12 because I think you may be locked into snow a little bit earlier Wednesday and then all snow Thursday. The I-70 corridor, Terre Haute, Indy, Richmond, I've got 5 to 8 inches plus ice. That could go either way, though. It could go a little bit lower. It could go higher. Again, that all factors in on what you get on Wednesday. I think a lot of that 5 to 8 is going to come on Wednesday night into Thursday. And then when you go south of there, Bloomington, Columbus, Greensburg, I've got 2 to 5 inches plus ice. And then along the Ohio River, 1 to 2 inches. So there is a lot of varying amounts there. And I think it's important to note here, before I have you jump in, Stephen, that while we have, if you go to any of our social media pages or if you go to our blog, and we've posted this forecast map, that it says through Thursday, which is true, but the 12 to 15 that we mentioned in the northern third of the state, most of that's going to come Wednesday. The 8 to 12 that I mentioned, that would include parts of Hamilton County, Madison County, Delaware County, Clinton County, that will possibly get a good chunk of it come Wednesday, but then the bulk of it Thursday. And then in Indy, the 5 to 8, most of that, if that holds true, comes in on Thursday. So again, it comes with that multi-wave event that, again, you know, if you live in Indianapolis and you get home Wednesday evening and there's no snow on the ground, you're probably going to think Bailey was wrong again. And again, that's where we want to reiterate that this is a two-facet system here, that our wave isn't going to be coming until Thursday. How'd I do on that, Stephen?
That's great job, Mark. Good job as always.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
See, Marcus Bailey got it right once again, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's like he's never wrong. He's got this. In all seriousness, though, yeah, no, this is really tough stuff. It's like this kind of, I hate to say it, kind of reminds me of Winter Storm Harper from 3 years ago for around here, though, because 3 years ago then, it was like we were tracking the potential for I think it was like, what, 5 to 8 inches of snow, maybe 10 in isolated areas. And
Right.
like there was the question of where was that freezing rain line going to set up at? And we ended up getting warm nose. And a lot of central Indiana ended up seeing sleet for like the first couple of hours. And social media just went nuts over it. I'm thinking,
Right.
okay, look, it doesn't matter. By the end of the night, we're going to be near zero anyway. So everything's going to flash freeze anyway. So that was a nightmare. I remember that was probably the most confusing system I ever forecasted for. This one, it's like, again, what's going to happen? There are definitely a few things that can definitely go wrong here at the forecast. I mean, listen, we don't want to hype stuff, and Marcus will tell you the same thing. It's here at Wish TV8. We always try to give you guys the best forecast from a cautious perspective. I think that's a good phrase for that. Because, listen, there's so much that can definitely change. A track shift of 10 miles would be significant. That's how crazy this is.
That's correct.
I think, in my opinion, that's small. Are we going to get warm nose? What I mean by warm nose is a warm layer kind of forms right above us and sticks around longer than it should, and we get sleeted, freezing rain. That would always increase our ice spread, though. So there's a catch-22 either way with the system. That's why I was saying on Facebook Live last night with Ashley, prepare for both snow and ice, because regardless, by the time we get to Friday, it's going to be a slow commute. I want to also make a mention, the impacts from this are going to actually linger to the weekend. You're probably asking yourself, probably asking me, Stephen, what are you talking about? There's not going to be any tree stuff going into Saturday. Well, look at the numbers for Saturday morning, especially. Lows are going to be, what, 0?
Right.
Maybe negative single digits. That snow and ice is going to have nowhere to go. So keep that in mind, especially for you northern Indiana folks, that this really mean Arctic air is coming back, and it's going to stick around for a couple of days. So this stuff's going to have nowhere to go, nowhere to melt. But yeah, we want to be careful out there on the roads, but not like we need to panic about it, though. I understand this stuff can be very anxiety-driven because, like I said earlier, you're talking daily life impacted. You're worried about you need to get to places, how you're going to stay safe, but that's where you got to, kind of settle down for a second, kind of just, plan things out. When you have a plan, you're usually good. If you don't have a plan, you're kind of freaking out. You can end up having bad decision making there. We don't want you to have that situation. We always try to, again, give you guys the most reliable stuff from what we see. And what we see right now is, like Marcus said, we're going to start seeing the snow come in early Wednesday as the cold air starts to nudge from the north. How fast that moves in and how further south this thing tracks really depends on how much central Indiana sees snow. That cold air starts coming in quicker, it starts getting colder. Yeah, that snow's going to end up having more of an impact around here. Could also increase the ice spread too, depending, especially for the south. There's just a lot that could change. I think that's the crazy thing about it. I think it's crazy how the warnings up north are saying 10 to 20 inches potentially snow. It's like, wow.
It's big numbers. Those are big numbers.
They are big numbers. Kind of want to give a shout real quick to friend Nathan Gidley, who's up in Fort Wayne, working up there, of course.
Former intern, by the way.
Yes, former intern, great guy, great hardworking person. He keeps telling our weather chat, I can't believe this. So he was like, I can't even sleep because it's just like crazy how they're about to get that much snow. I'm thinking, I know. I'm like, I don't know how the models are like this consistent with this much snow. Usually when models do this, sometimes it's like it's overdoing it. But
Correct.
It's like, then again, you see why they're going kind of high because of the duration of the event. And no wonder why there's going to be a lot of heavy snow for a long duration.
Right. Well,
lots of moisture.
Yep.
Two, and that's another thing to think about here too, the shear. Usually when we talk about shear severe weather, but
Correct.
Shear plays a factor here with winter systems too. And that's a change in wind speed and direction with height. Winds turn clockwise with height. There's some really strong shear here. What that helps with is the organization of the system. So everything's going to be more sturdy. It's going to be more compact. It's going to help with snow growth as well, with moisture coming up with the storms. So snow's going to be able to grow, and it's going to be a nice growth area for snow, and it's going to just come down. And also, too, Marcus, I'm not sure if you mentioned this on the air. I'm sure you did, though. There's a lot of things you got to kind of remember with this. It could be hard, too, because there's just so much that goes into it. But it's always, of course, important to keep things in mind, other things in mind, too. Thursday. There could be blizzard-like conditions Thursday. And why I say that's because it's going to be breezy. Thursday. Wind gusts could be 25 to 30. So we're talking reduced visibilities, especially where heavy snow happens. So
Right.
that's just another additive to this problem.
Yep. Yep, and it does get cold. It gets cold in a hurry. You're right. You hit that on the head. I don't want to go too long here because we're going to do some more updates here during the week. We wanted to kind of give you the nuts and bolts, but I definitely don't want to, and I kind of feel like I did when I was walking through the forecast a little bit because I spent more time on the snow accumulation, but I don't want to discount the ice potential because that's going to be an issue, I think, for central Indiana along that I-70 corridor, mainly Wednesday. Now, again, how quickly do we change that over? And it's such a fine line. And I did a podcast, I think it was it last week or the week before? It might have been last week, where I talked about precipitation types. And it's such a fine line between sleet and freezing rain, right? And look, we're going to be mild here as we're recording this on Tuesday. It's going to be up to 50 here in Indianapolis, So
that's why for a run, tired of not being able to go for a run here in these streets. It's like, no one run when it's 20 degrees. How do you do it?
Right. Well, and you don't want to run with 8 inches of snow on the ground either, So, I mean, but I don't want to discount the ice potential here. Now, sleet is a little bit easier to manage, right? Because it doesn't accumulate on power lines and trees and weigh things down. Sleet's just your little ice balls, and you can slick up the roads, but it's manageable. Freezing rain is no good. I say this kind of jokingly, but not jokingly. I'd rather have a foot of snow than a tenth of an inch of ice, because you just don't know. You can't see it. It's so dangerous to travel in. I talked about the ice storm a few weeks ago, about the one I experienced in Muncie, but we had one not that long ago here in Indy that just created gridlock on a Friday night, and it was just a glazing, and you saw what kind of problems that created. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm not saying that's the situation here, but it just goes to where my point is, that ice is awful. All right, it's no good. I'd rather this be all snow or just rain. Be one or the other. Don't throw it in between, because then on top of that, if you do have some major ice issues, then you're talking about, problems to the power grid infrastructure, especially like you said on Thursday when the winds pick up. Now, I think, I'm pretty optimistic. I'm not 100% confident, but I'm pretty optimistic that we're out of the ice for a vast majority of Thursday here in Indianapolis. But I do think there will be southern counties in Indiana that may be locked in with ice as the winds picked up. And in that, you mesh both of those together, that's a big problem, because now you're weighing down tree limbs, you're weighing down power lines, and that's where you run into power outage issues. So, I don't want to discount the ice threat, and then on top of that, if we get ice, even if it's up to a tenth of an inch here in Indianapolis, you're going to throw snow on top of it. All you're doing is you've created a skating rink and you've hidden it with a bunch of snow on top of it. You know what I mean? So that's why we've been saying and stressing, while it may not look like a winter wonderland in Indianapolis Wednesday afternoon for the evening drive, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have our whole host of problems to contend with Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. It's just the beginnings of what will be a very long 36-hour stretch, I think.
Absolutely. I agree. And again, I just want to be patient with this one. Patience, I think, is really key with this one too, folks, because it's such a long event. I don't remember the last time we had a long winter event like this, Marcus. Do you? Because I'm starting to think it's been a minute since we've had something like this be long lasting. I had to say maybe the ice storm, and even then it was like that was the snowstorm last was about 8 hours or 10 hours or so. That's kind of long. I'm talking like
Well, it's been a while since we've had kind of what I would call this double barrel complex, and what I mean by that is it's to your point that. You get this southern system. When you want a big snow in Indiana, you have to have a connection of moisture supply, and our connection is the Gulf of Mexico. And so, but you're going to get that twice, which is fascinating to me, right? Because while this is going to be classified as one event, it like I said earlier in the podcast, it basically is two. All right, it's Wednesday, and then you lose that connection briefly before it picks back up again as another wave kind of comes through and rides along that cold front. So it is fascinating. I can't think of anything off recent memory. I know I was reading some of the forecast discussions earlier in the week, and what we do sometimes as meteorologists, we can look at analogs, which the analogs will. What they do basically is they look at how the models are kind of figuring a certain complex up, and they try to see if there was a storm that mimicked that in the past. And one of them that was brought up was the day after Christmas of 2000 and it
was December 22nd and 23rd of 04.
04. Okay. Yeah. 23rd of 04. That was the one that the Indianapolis office, I can't remember who the meteorologist that wrote the discussion. It was a fantastic discussion, very detailed. But even he said that there's some instances where this kind of matches up, but not completely. So yeah, I don't think at least in recent memory, I can think of anything where you've got such a distinct dividing line and all the moisture that's coming in. It's going to be fascinating kind of how it all unfolds.
Yeah, I'm definitely eager to how this plays out. I'm a little nervous too, but it's like, I prefer the snow at this point, but it's like, who knows if, I mean, we got a better vehicle now. It's like, but it depends. It depends. We'll see. But I mean, Thursday, it could be really tricky Thursday. We'll see. I'm kind of like thinking, oh, geez, but like Ashley told me yesterday, the hard stuff kind of was there for Monday, of course, with getting everything together. Now it's just, we got the ground running, so it's just pretty much straightforward.
Yep. Okay.
With the
all right, Stephen, let's put the wraps up on this here. Thank you so much for your time, brother. Where can people follow you? Because Stephen, he works the evening shift. He helps. You don't see Stephen often unless it's during severe weather here, but he does so much work for us behind the scenes with digital and making wonderful graphics and all that other stuff. He's going to be posting a lot. He had an extremely relevant and detailed blog last night. He'll be updating that later tonight. Stephen, where can people find you on social media?
Thank you, Marcus, so much. Real quick, brother, for having me back on, and can't wait to be on future episodes. Man, it's always a great time talking about weather, man. Just to kind of give you guys some stuff to take away from and learn as well with the weather. Weather is fascinating. It's crazy, like what's going to come up. But
right.
on the social Facebook, I have a weather page. Steven Diana WX. I have a V in my first name. Sometimes you can spell it the PH, but I have the V in my first name. On Twitter, you can follow me at Steven Diana WX. There are no spaces. My profile picture, of course, still the good old screenshot of me being on the air back in mid-June. I can't. Oh my God, that's just not wrap my head around.
One of these days we'll still talk. One of these days we'll talk about your severe weather coverage when we don't have to worry about big winter storms.
Oh yeah. I'm definitely more than happy to share about it, especially for those who are kind of up-and-coming, young, aspiring meteorologists to kind of play and learn what you kind of want to know during severe weather. And it could be hectic, too, but on the Insta, or says the gram, Stephen D_WX98. I don't have a TikTok yet, Marcus. I know we
time to get on that, Stephen.
It's
time to get on it, buddy.
You better get on it, sir. It's like, you need to get on it right now, this incident. Marcus's voice became more high-pitched than it already is. I'm just kidding. All
right, brother. I appreciate you. Good luck here kind of wrapping up this forecast, and then we'll see how this all plays out here Wednesday and Thursday. But it looks like it's going to be a good one.
Absolutely, Marcus. Thank you, man. And good luck continuing to forecast as well, man. All the best to you guys.
All right. Thanks, brother. All right, more Weather Weekly after this. Thank you so much for joining us here for this special podcast of Weather Weekly, hoping to do a couple more here through the week. So keep an eye out for that when those drop, specifically talking about this winter system to keep you up to date. Make sure you're following all of us on social media. Myself at Marcus Bailey on Twitter, and on Facebook and Instagram, it's Marcus Bailey Weather. Also make sure to follow Steven, as you heard, Ashley Brown, Tara Hastings, David James, Randy Ollis, and Stephanie Mead. We will have you covered throughout the storm. And while you have the opportunity opportunity, make sure to download the Storm Track 8 weather app to get all those alerts and updates through our weather blog that we keep updated 24/7 as well. Thank you so much joining us here on the podcast. Always love to hear your feedback. Shoot me an email anytime at marcus.bailey@wishtv.com. And of course, we love to have you check out all the other podcasts here on the great All Indiana Podcast Network. We'll talk to you soon.
Discover more from Storm Track 8 Weather and Wish TV. Online at wishtv.com and when you follow Wish TV on Facebook. Plus, be sure to check out more great podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.